Yeah.
buy an electric car, do everything electric, da, 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 and you're biking, wasting electricity when you have
Your legs.
right there. And he's like, damn it. I'm like, I look over for shit.
Totally blew it. I gotta turn around. Oh shit. Oh shit. Yeah, it totally worked. GoPro went down my wetsuit all the way to my newts. Rob's still out there. I'm going back. Going back. Rob, I'm telling you, man, I need a coffee. That's after that surf. I never thought I'd want like coffee after surfing, but let's talk coffee. I mean,
Coffee.
it's obviously a big
Favorite
part of both
subject.
our lives. So what do you like? What's your deal? What's your routine?
My deal right now is the pour over.
The pour over, yes.
So this nice glass pour over, some very good
A
friend of mine.
Coach
Very good
glass
friend of-
pour over.
Yes. And obviously you sent this to me, so I'm so grateful because I did not get into pour overs until you sent it to me.
Right.
But then I went down the rabbit hole in terms of figuring out how to do the pour over,
The pour over.
the pour over. But no, this is kind of my go-to right now for coffee and other things. So I kind of figured out my own method in regards to how much coffee to water.
Yeah. You weigh it. It's the golden
And
cup.
then remember the agitation. Yeah.
That's you got me on the agitation. I didn't agitate. I was agitated because my
right.
coffee wasn't tasting good. But you're the agitator.
Yes.
Just that little shaky, shake, shake. I mean, that's money. So
Yep.
I thought it'd be really cool if we made some coffee. I want to see how you weigh it.
So what I do is I've got my little scale here. So this is where we kind of geek out. So I'm going to go 140. Now I go 140 because I subtract the amount, right? So this little espresso cup's 115 grams.
Yeah.
So it's 140. So 25 grams of coffee.
I love how you added one more bean because it was literally 139.5, and you're like, no, I need one more. I need one more
140.
bean.
I need 140, or I need half a bean.
Can I touch your beans? Okay. So now we're gonna grind.
We're gonna grind.
Now you told me a long time ago. You said it's all about the grind.
It's all about the grind.
I thought you meant work. I opened up like 5 businesses. I didn't sleep for a year and a half because I was grinding.
Grinding.
And you're like, it's all about the grind, Jay. It's all about. And then you're talking about coffee grinder.
Coffee grinder.
It's all about the grind.
Ranquillo.
Okay, so this is the grinder that almost ends marriages. Yeah,
Because of the cost
the
of it?
cost of it.
Possibly,
Yeah,
yes.
it's like surfboards and grinders. If all of a
Right.
sudden the wife finds out like how much you actually spent on a surfboard and a grinder,
Grinder.
she's like, are you serious?" And you're like, "It's all about the grind."
And we got the hand grinder coming too, so I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll have to see what happens.
see what happens. So what are we doing here? We got the weight. We got 140 grams, which is actually 30
Well, it's actually 25 grams.
25 grams of coffee.
This is my method. So
Toss it in the
yeah,
hopper.
So we're gonna go here, and I found that the best way to grind is around 25.
Okay.
Pour over, and then obviously we do espresso. We just down.
So 25 would be a little bit of a rougher or like a more coarse.
More coarse, yeah.
More coarse.
Yeah, more coarse. And then from here we just grind it, and then we're gonna get the pour over going.
Cool.
All
All right, let's go.
So let's go. And it's very quiet, as you can see. I can see here. And I have this off because I try to get obviously all the coffee down.
Where's the grinding agent? Oh, there.
This is very special water, Jay.
Special water?
Oolong temperature 195.
Okay.
That it says on our
What is oolong? mean?
kettle. Oolong tea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's
the
kinda like-
temperature?
That's a mode on our
Oh, okay.
on our kettle. So we're gonna first get this all wet. Basically, you just kind of do this to get the residuals off the filter.
Oh, you make it way more wet than I do. I always just do like a splash and I'm like,
Well,
oh,
see,
I
so
got
now
it.
the thing is, I try to get this also a bit warm, right?
Oh, okay.
Is that the chemistry part of it, right? All right, so that's done. So dump this, get the water out, and then back on here, scale, because, I mean, if you do the math, it's basically 14 grams of water per every gram of coffee. That's kind of what I figured out.
14 to 1.
14 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so from here, get the coffee out.
That's weird. That's the same score when Team Canada plays U.S. in hockey. 14 to 1. Yeah, isn't that weird?
Sometimes it gets stuck, so that's why I put my fingers in there.
Okay.
That's my mechanical rotation there to deal with it. Because I think we've had this thing for, God, it's got to be 10 years now. It's still going strong. All right, so put it at 0.
Mm-hmm.
If it'll go. There we go. And then timer on. So my first pour, I'm just trying to get all wet as possible. I go to probably around 65-ish, 70 grams. And then this is the...
Now you're
We
agitating.
call it the blooming phase.
The blooming.
So the carbon dioxide is supposed to go off.
So I was
That's how you get-
agitating it like this, like. Ee.
No, I just
You're-
kind of
you're
circular.
swirl.
Swirl.
Ooh, that does smell good.
So I mean, usually like 25 to 30 seconds, and then the second pour, I go to about 220 grams. So some people say you can't pour on the edges; you have to.
I was
pour.
just gonna say, I never want to pour on the edges because I'm thinking it's gonna go right past the coffee,
No,
right into the
no,
cup,
no, no.
and I'm gonna get no coffee out of it.
I totally think like I don't know. That's a myth.
That's a myth. Okay.
So I just the key thing they always say is like a consistent pour. So I'm getting past 200. So now I get to about 220, so 220.2. And then from here, what I do is I've kind of experimented, but I feel like, okay, I used to do 2 agitations. I just do 1 more. I used 3 agitations before. Now I just do 2, so initial one. So now I just let it kind of flow down, and then it's the last agitation.
Yeah,
That's
you got
it.
a lot more mud going on there. I think it's
yeah.
because you use a coarser grind. I think
Possibly,
so.
yeah.
Mine kind of gets like it sinks and it just kind of looks like silt or something at the bottom. Yours actually.
Oh yeah, so I have
think-
a little coarser grind.
I think so.
Because then it, obviously if it's more fine, then the flow rate is a lot slower. So your coffee might be pretty strong then.
It is.
Okay. So I go from here. I go to about 360. So for most people, this will probably be fairly strong for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Have you ever done the thing where you forget to pour the water out of the bottom, and then you start making the coffee, and then it starts overflowing? You've done that.
rookie,
Total rookie. Total rookie.
total rookie.
I've done it many times.
Oh, this is the worst. So I have just because you have residual on the bottom of the V60, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just fold up a paper towel
Okay.
and I'll put it on top of that. So sometimes it just sticks, right? So
Uh,
I've even been the rookie, and I put that in there and I
you still have the paper towel in there?
on the bottom. So then I'm going, why the hell is this thing so heavy? And I got water, paper towel, and coffee. So that was a big.
It's a coffee sandwich.
Rookie. Oh yeah, well, but no. So just
Now you just let it sit.
I just let it sit. I mean, we're coming on at 3 minutes. So obviously, the longer that it sits in there, then the more concentrated it's going to be.
Mm.
Probably darker, but then more extraction of caffeine.
Okay.
So kind of like, I mean, that's where I think it doesn't have to be a certain way. I think that's where you experiment, kind of find what you like,
Mm.
and
Absolutely.
what the taste and kind of texture, that sort of thing. So I find that's, kind of the cool thing where you can really experiment and figure out what works for you.
So how long did it take you to master this whole scenario?
Oh my gosh, I mean,
Like, it's just experimenting. That's the fun part.
kind of experimenting, yeah.
That's the fun
That
part.
and then the beans, right? So sometimes you
Mm.
go with like a medium roast, and then like every time I do a medium roast, I'm like so unsatisfied.
Right. Okay.
I'm just like, oh, I just don't like the taste of it. I like the darker roast. So anytime I find a dark roast, I'll try it.
Cool.
Yeah. But then I kind of go back to this one, which is kind of cool.
So it's much like coaching. It's trial and error. You try things, certain things work, like the agitation.
Totally.
You agitate your clients, and they all of a sudden they get results, and then sometimes you agitate them too much.
Too much, and they don't get results.
They're too much agitation.
Overtraining.
And then they just fire you. Yeah.
Totally. So at this point, I think so it's about 4 minutes. So it's pretty much done.
Okay.
So we can have our coffee
Sweet. I can't wait.
conversation.
Yes.
go. Let's get some of this coffee. Ooh.
That's good.
See, it's gotta be dark like that.
It's gotta be.
None of this like light tea-ish coffee.
No.
No, we don't like that. Test.
Is it wrong to cheers coffee? I
don't know. We're just doing it anyways.
Wow. That's good.
That's pretty good.
That's really good. That's really good. I thought it would be kind of cool. We always, when we get together, we always talk about our clients and, some of the challenges that we have with athletes. And what I find is being a coach, and I want to talk to you about like what it means for you to be a coach, but I feel like most of our conversations are rarely about technique, rarely about training philosophy.
Right.
It's almost always about the person, like the challenges of interpersonal relationships with clients and how badly we want somebody to have success and the challenges that go along with that.
Totally.
Is that what, when you think about coaching, is that what brought you into this? Because I went into coaching thinking I was going to help people train, but now I'm realizing that I'm actually helping them become like more human or better people. Yeah. And the training's almost a conduit to get to that. What is your thoughts on your progress as a coach?
Yeah, I think obviously I have the nutrition side as well as coaching different athletes and general population people, and so yeah, I mean the exercise science is important and the nutrition science is important, but it's also working with the person as an individual and the psychology of it and the coaching aspect of it, right? So I think, yes, those things are important and you need them as tools, but then there's also trying to support the person in the ways you can. Or if, I've had a client come with cancer, and how do you help that particular person, obviously from my expertise, but also trying to support them on the mental, emotional side too.
Yeah, that's got to be tough.
So yeah, it's definitely tough and challenging, but I think it's not so much rewarding, but it's just one way to try to give them support in one way or another. But
it's weird that I feel like athletes come to you because of your speciality. Like for me, rotational power. They're like, I want to move faster.
Right.
But at the end of it, when I look at the end of, let's say, years of coaching together, those aren't the points that I remember, and it's hopefully the interpersonal stuff. It's that relationship you build with another human being that means to me a coach.
Yeah.
Like there's a technical aspect, but I think being a coach is about the communication and the kind of the way that you connect with people.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
And some of them are challenges, and you learn something about yourself.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Some of the challenges, you sometimes think, oh my gosh, I think it's too overwhelming or maybe too much of a hassle sometimes, but it ends up actually being, great learning experience, but also very rewarding too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you had any coaching kind of moments where you feel like maybe you learned something about your coaching, like you made some mistakes or any challenges in that? Because we everybody thinks like a great coach has just always been a great coach, but the way you became a great coach was by failing.
Right.
Making some of those mistakes, overstepping your boundaries too sometimes, or not saying something when you should say something.
Yeah. Just personally on my side, just helping my one of my sons in surfing competition.
Oh, you mean those aren't your trophies?
No, not at all. It's not to show off.
Those aren't
That's
yours?
for sure. But as a coach, one of the contests, it was all, okay, results don't matter. Okay, just go out there and focus on what we had worked on and what we're working on, and the results don't matter. And of course, when it came down to it, he made one small mistake and it didn't make the heat. And the only thing that I focused on was, how come you didn't sit on that guy?
Right.
Instead of going, dude, you just did everything that we talked about this whole past 3 days, and you did it. You did everything that you needed to, and I didn't celebrate that.
It's our job not to be the cheerleader, and it's very hard to do that with your son.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to be the cheerleader for the athlete. We're supposed to be the support and be there for them, and be able to keep the line. So like their emotions could be high and low and going crazy, and we're the ones that are supposed to be like keeping it real,
Even
and
keel.
yeah, and stay on point for
Oh,
what
yeah.
we're trying to accomplish. But it's hard because
Yeah.
you want them to succeed so
Oh,
bad.
absolutely.
And it gets
Yeah.
very challenging.
Yeah.
Now, one time we were talking about coaching, and I said to you that I said, with my mentorship, I mentor a lot of coaches, and I always tell them that the only difference between me and them is just that I have the balls to be able to say, I believe in something, and then put it out to the world.
Right.
And I remember we were driving to go surfing one day, and you said to me, you go, oh no, Jay, it's not just that. They're not like you, and they're not like me. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of cocky. But you're like, no, the difference is that knowing when to do, when to do, and how much to do, and how to do it because of all of our years of experience.
Right.
So you can't say that somebody who's only been coaching for 5 years is going to be able to make those right decisions that somebody that's been doing it for 25 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you feel like as you've evolved as a coach, like we're kind of in like, you hit that 25-year mark of coaching.
Right.
What have you felt like maybe over the last, 5 years, 10 years where your coaching has really changed?
For me, it obviously I sometimes I wear a hat as purely a strength and conditioning coach,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes it's okay. I'm just hired as part of a team, and I'm the nutritionist.
Right.
So I think for what I do, I almost have to think less is more.
Yes.
And as you know, if you're the strength conditioning guy for a player on tour, obviously they're going to have their golf coach, and they're going to have I've been part of teams where there's a conditioning person, there's a strength conditioning person, then there's, the skills person, then there's the, obviously nutritionist. And it's almost like they're being pulled in 10 different directions.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at everything, I sit back going, okay, they're seeing 5 different people. They have 3 different quarterback coaches. I'm going, okay, I need to almost back off on what I do. So
even though you might have something to add,
right.
It's like this is not my time to interject. And
right.
Yeah.
So I need to have restraint as a coach and throw my ego out the window and say, all right, what's best for the athlete?
Right. Which is tough.
It's tough because, it's not just my program is the most important. It's okay in the context of everything that's going on. And obviously then you got to look at what's going on in regards to their personal life and everything else. Because I always ask them, what's, your work stress? What's your personal stress?
Yeah.
And you have to know that, because then you have to know how much stress you can put into the system.
Right.
So even though I want to put them on a high performance program, I'm like, look, I can't. Well, I need to just strategically say, hey, this is the best program for you, or this is, okay, let's back off your supplementation to this, because this is probably the best option at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And then, okay, we can start to ramp things up later as we go along.
But it's hard because they want the sexy stuff right away. They want to do the cool stuff, and you're kind of like, look, we got to start with the foundation. And I love doing foundation work because you're laying a platform.
Right.
But there's a fear of maybe losing a client because they think it's too simple.
Right.
Even though you know that it's the right step.
Right.
And so some other flashy coach could come in and go, oh, I'm just gonna go for it. Like I could show you the coolest exercises, or I'll do some funky thing with your nutrition, and you're like, well, hold on a second here. We haven't got a baseline yet.
Yeah.
So I think with time as a coach, knowing that those foundations have to be put in place, and then communicating that, which is the key. Because
I was going to say,
you got to be able to communicate that.
That's, I think, the biggest, mistake that young coaches make.
Yeah.
And I made it.
Yep.
Where you do not go through the explanation, the why.
Yes.
The why of, I'm not going to be putting you on power snatches or, plyometrics or box jumps. You're just, you may not communicate with a particular athlete as you're not ready for it, but it's like, we've got to work on other things so that, you can benefit from these exercises later.
That's
like
right.
Right now, if you do it, we're going to break you.
But they want it right now. Right. I want to be great now.
But I think that's where the communication has to be open, and you have to be very forthcoming in the very beginning. And that's one of the things that I've always learned at the very beginning, because for some people they say, hey, well, Rob, I want to lose weight and I've got a lot of gut issues. Even though the gut issues are pressing and they're, having all kinds of diarrhea, bloating, gas, and stomach pain, the weight loss is more important.
Right.
When you get down to the nitty gritty, they're like, well, that's more important. I go, well, no,
No, your
this
health.
other stuff has to be addressed first and get you healthy from the inside out.
Right.
And oftentimes I just say, look, this is not, you're not going to lose weight. You might even gain weight. I actually make a worst case scenario. In that situation,
they
say,
must
look,
lose their minds.
like I just say, look, this is not what you want. So, and that's okay on my end. So I'm like, if I might not be the person that you need to work with.
Yes.
And I think that's where people mentally have to be able to grasp that as a coach. And because ultimately later on, if they're not successful, they go, well, Rob Yang, he put me on this program, but it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Very good.
It's like the person comes to me and they go, I want more speed. And then like you give them more speed and they go, but I don't have, why didn't I get a six pack? It's like, well, whoa,
Right.
when did I promise you a six pack?
Yeah, exactly.
You're working on speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's switch gears for a minute. I want to talk about to the coaches out there. How do you keep your kind of health, like mental health, physical health, kind of balance in your life as a coach? Because I feel like sometimes I'm drained from giving, like I'm constantly giving and giving and giving. And who gives to us, right? Like you give to yourself maybe, but how do you find balance so that you can be 100% present and effective as a coach when you do coach? What do you have to do behind the scenes that nobody would see to kind of keep yourself in that state?
Yeah, it's a great question because both you and I, we're always lecturing, presenting in conferences, and so we're interacting with so many people within the industry. And early in my career, we all had a grind. We all had a hustle. So I just remember days waking up at 4 a.m. and seeing the 5 a.m. client and then working 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you get a break until 3, and then you see another 4 or 5 clients. And that's just that sort of grind that I think is valuable for coaches to go through.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go through that because that's how you design programs, coaching, you sharpen up your skills. But I think over time, that's where I think there's got to be a balance. And so, obviously, from my perspective on being a nutritionist, I think that's where a lot of the coaches are not taking care of themselves.
Yes.
So, hydration, like they're not hydrating enough throughout the day, and then they're not eating enough food to control their blood sugar. So, those base and foundational principles tend to be neglected.
Which are so simple because that's what they have control over.
Right, that's what they have control over. But they say, "Oh, I don't have time. I got to wake up at 4 o'clock, 4:30, so I can't do anything. I'll just have coffee, and then I just won't eat anything." There's intermittent fasting, that whole thing. But that's where I think they neglect it, and even it can be extreme to where they don't even exercise.
Yeah,
I've seen that, and I've consulted with coaches where they're like, "Rob, it's embarrassed to say this, but I haven't really trained the last 3 months. I'm so busy."
Wow.
So at one point they do have to take the reins and go, okay, like I've grinded for enough time, and I've had to tell coaches, look, and I asked them, why are you training this person at 5 a.m.?
Yeah.
They go, well,
because they want to.
They're my 5 a.m. They want to, otherwise I'm losing the client.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you have to be upfront with that client and say, look, like it's not that I don't want to see you, but the 5 a.m. it's not conducive to my health.
Right.
Long term.
Yeah.
And I want to keep you as a person, but we need to find a different time.
And it's probably not for their health either.
Right. Exactly. And they have to be, honest about it, and then also clarify why they're saying, look, I'm going to only take a 6 a.m. client now, as early.
Yeah.
And I tell people, look, I don't start before 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's for me personally.
What a jerk.
Yeah. Right. And I say, I go through the explanation, like I have to make my health a priority because remember you talked about, well, how can you be present with that particular athlete or general population, attorney, lawyer, football player, whoever that is? Well, you have to be on your A game.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to hydrate enough. You have to control your blood sugar. You have to eat properly. You got to sleep enough.
Right.
And not be surviving off of coffee or energy drinks, but you're thriving off. Like we've had a good, exercise. We surfed. We had a good lunch, and then we're enjoying some coffee.
Right.
But that foundation, I think, is missing with a lot of coaches.
So what do you do yourself? Like, are you a meditator?
Mm.
Are you is getting in the water enough for you, or is it like just being away from the gym and the coaching environment? Maybe filming your boys surfing. Like, what is it that gives you that kind of balance where you're a human being again, not just a coach?
Right. I think for me, it's obviously prayer,
Mm-hmm.
reading the Bible.
Yep,
Can be a form of meditation,
it's definitely yeah,
and then being in the ocean.
yep.
There's just, there's a saying with surfers, oh, how was it, Rob? And oh, it's good to get wet.
Mm,
Even though surf maybe wasn't that good of what you thought it would be, it's just good to get wet. And so I think that part of it is quite helpful.
yeah,
Um, and then, I mean, for me, I'm a little bit different in the sense that I told you before, like I do nutrition work and then I do the training aspect as well, depending on who's in town.
yeah.
So that for me, that breaks it up. So I get the best of both worlds
Mm-hmm.
to a certain degree, where I geek out on lab work and nutrition and
Right.
ferritin and all these other markers. But then I still get to see an athlete in the gym and work on maybe some strength and conditioning, power training at times. And sometimes it's kind of quote unquote, the boring stuff.
Yeah.
It's stability, it's postural stuff, it's more myofascial stretching. And sometimes you have to go to that. You can't always do what you want to do.
Right.
And I learned this from a naturopath, and like he says, it's nutritional narcissism. So in the sense that where I'm going to pick on the vegans, where they're like, oh, veganism is the best because oh my god, I cured my cancer or I cured my energy or it made me better, and then they say everybody should be doing that.
Mm,
And it's saying exercise narcissism.
yeah.
And so they say, well, powerlifting is awesome. It made me who I am and got rid of my shoulder problems and my back problems, but it's not for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
put that on everybody.
Right.
So I think that's where, yeah, you want to follow your passions and you want to do what you want to do and design programs for how you want to design them. But sometimes you got to, treat who's in front of you,
Yeah.
depending on
True.
what their needs are. So sometimes, yeah, it's stability stuff,
Yeah.
and
And it's not
mobility.
sexy, but you know what is sexy?
Right.
Doing the right thing for the right person and actually seeing results.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So to close this off, I got to thank you because you taking me into the water, right, over the years, like the last few years that we've been doing this, you've sparked and you almost opened up the door for me to be able to like get in the ocean and make surfing like it's an obsession right now for me, and I'm loving it. But I've never been healthier. I've never you told me if I don't work on my mobility, I'm going to be a stand-up paddleboarder,
Yeah.
and I was like, that ain't happening. So then I started working on my mobility and stuff, and all those things, those little layers come into play. But it restoked my fire to get back into training differently than I had been for 25 years. Right. So I'm training for a different purpose, and the time that we get to spend surfing together, and you putting up with me getting destroyed and purling my board over and over again,
that's right.
and pushing me into waves that I probably shouldn't be in. Yeah, I gotta thank you, man, because it's actually enhanced my life, that other aspect of my life, in a massive way. And so I value your friendship and what you've done for me.
So cool to see.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Awesome.